was recently at the Oshkosh Airshow in the United States, and they made such a big thing about building an aircraft in 7 days there. And we thought, let's come back here to South Africa and build a four-seater in 4 days.
So we thought if we're going to better this, we've got to do it faster, do it bigger. And AAD is the perfect place to do it. It's Africa Aerospace and Defence. It's the biggest air show in South Africa.
And it's largely our passion that's driving us. And because we're so driven, we're succeeding.
Aviation enthusiast and adventurer Mike Blyth never shies away from a crazy challenge. And this time, he and his team take on the task of building a four-seater plane in just 4 days at South Africa's biggest air show.
So we set about working out how long is it going to take to do this, how many staff do we need, and we kind of worked out a formula which we called the Sling 4-4-40. It's a Sling 4 built in 4 days using 40 people.
They create that spirit that you want to believe in yourself. You believe you can like touch the sky. And then when you got that spirit, then everything is possible.
The intention was to work 3 nights as well as the day. So we had a day shift and a night shift.
The first day was stressful. I must say that for me, actually, the build-up has been the most stressful part.
It's all about logistics. You got to know what to do first and what to do last. And how much effort and how many hours to put in the beginning.
Mike's reputation as an aviation professional and airplane manufacturer is on the line, but he's confident that his highly committed and passionate team will be able to pull it off. A pioneer of early microlight aviation in South Africa, Mike Blyth has been involved in the aircraft business, designing, building, and selling aircraft for over 30 years. Mike is a past aviation world champion and has received numerous awards, both for his contribution to aviation in South Africa and his aviation feats, as well as the films he has made to record them. Today, Mike, together with his partner, James Pittman, are selling their South African designed and manufactured planes around the world. It is an inspiring good news South African story. World-class aircraft being designed and made in South Africa by a passionate team of aviation enthusiasts.
I started the business off in 2005. Started developing a light 2-seater aircraft from scratch, completely clean sheet of paper. And about a year and a half later, James came along. I needed some moral support, technical support, and it's difficult to manage a business like this on your own. Also needed some financial help, and we've been friends for a number of years. He came along and joined me in the business.
I'd met Mike at a party, and we hit it off immediately. We were both dressed as women that night, actually.
Yeah, a cross-dressing party, and I just want to get that straight.
And we never really looked back, actually, after I got involved with you. I had a lucky break, financially really, as a lawyer in my previous life. And so I was knocking around looking for something to do. And I'd always been a guy who loved aeroplanes, you know. Mike, of course, was like a kind of hero of mine because he was the first South African microlight piloting world champion. And he had these grand plans. So I joined him in end of 2007.
Yeah. So I'd been going about 2 years, and you joined me, exactly that. And then we got the first prototype aircraft into the air, which
I can remember that, 18 October 2008.
Both flew. It was like a year after you joined me.
So when we went around the world the first time, the first leg essentially was from Pilanesberg in South Africa to a place called Sao Tome. We understood that that was the longest straight line flight that had been done in an aircraft that light ever. And as we continued that trip around the world, we kept on kind of breaking our own records and going further and further. Yeah. And in fact, it got easier and easier, didn't it?
It did. I think for me, the most memorable flight of all, because it was the first big long flight, fully loaded, first flight at night.
And we actually damn nearly did ourselves in action on that first flight. Yeah. We had a close call.
And then from there up to Guinea, and then
we were arrested.
where we were arrested, and we were filming at night. We were walking, coming back from a restaurant that we'd been to.
And we didn't realize the extent of political instability in Guinea, did we? I mean,
and also the people there, but you know, particularly the military, are a little bit paranoid. And then from Brazil, we flew up to
the British
U.S. Virgin Islands.
U.S. Virgin Islands.
U.S. Virgin Islands, and from there up to Miami in Florida in the United States, and then up to the Oshkosh Airshow. The Oshkosh Airshow is where we actually wanted to get to in the first place with that, and it was the most amazing experience because you've got 10,000 aircraft come in there, and for that 1 week it's the busiest airport in the world. From there we flew across to Los Angeles, and then we did another long flight from Los Angeles across to Hawaii, and that was about 22 and a half hours, I think.
22 and a half hours.
Yeah.
It was about 40 miles shorter, or 30 miles shorter, but we had more headwinds to start. So it took us longer, in fact.
Spent a few days there, and then on to the Marshall Islands, and then through Micronesia, and then we flew into Sri Lanka. That was a 14-hour flight, and we made the decision to not stay over, but to refuel, file a flight plan, check the weather, and go straight onto the Seychelles, which was just going to save us a bit of time on dealing with bureaucracy and looking for hotels and taxis and things like that. And this is one of the times that we flew into very bad weather there. It was like 3.5 hours in a storm.
No sane human being would be anything but terrified. You don't think you're stupid or terrified, you know?
Okay, so that's better. I'd rather be terrified than stupid.
There's always something about the sunrise. I mean, it's got a powerfully emotional significance for humans. I think when we lived in caves, you know, it meant...
Well, I think especially after a night of terror.
Yeah.
If a normal, nice, happy night, you know, it's a different thing. But a night of terror like we had last night.
On the 7th of August 2011, Mike and James flew around the world again, this time in their 4-seater Sling 4. They completed 20 legs, some of them exceeding 18 hours of flying, and they had the opportunity to visit 14 countries. So, it was time for a new adventure, and for Mike, building a plane from scratch in 4 days was the perfect challenge.
Is everyone excited or scared?
No, excited.
Just a little bit scared. Just a little bit scared.
So, the final briefing was done at the factory a day before the build. The work shifts were discussed, and everyone was instructed on how things would be done and who would be doing what. The last of the kits, tools, catering equipment, and marketing material were loaded onto the truck and taken to Waterkloof Air Base.
That generator is what's supplying all our electrical power, and I hope they plan to run it 24 hours a day. Because if they don't, I'm going to get grumpy.
I organized everything. I set it up. It was kind of my idea. And I felt like there was a lot of pressure on me to make sure that it does get done. I'm not involved in the technical side. I'm not involved in the building side. So I had to kind of relinquish that a bit and say, all right, I'm putting faith in everyone else that you say you can do it, you'll do it. So day one, I was biting my nails.
6:15, Wednesday morning. It's the beginning.
The day got off to a bit of a slow start, with traffic coming into the Air Force Base being much worse than expected. Instead of kicking off the build at 7:30 sharp, they only got in at 8:30 and started building at 9 a.m. So the pressure started building right from the start. When you consider it is 12 people physically working on the airframe, you realize that 18 precious hours were lost. The cooks were also stuck in traffic, and so breakfast was going to be quite late.
Go over the highway.
I called in.
Who is it?
Chanel and Tanita. Trying to cook us food. We're not going to get food anytime soon.
But there was no time to think about food. The team had to make up for lost time. Fortunately, everything was proceeding quite smoothly. The fuselage was taking shape nicely, the engine wiring was coming along at a steady pace, and the panel already had switches and some instruments installed. Support has been fantastic, with lots of people coming to wish the team luck, including the chief of the Senegalese Air Force.
So we've been going for an hour and 10 minutes, and we're starting to assemble. finished, almost finished with the priming, preparing and priming. Engines going together over there. Everything's looking great.
The teams have made up for the late start and everything was pretty much on schedule. The rear and center fuselage were married to each other just before the night shift arrived, and the wing kit boxes were opened and priming begun. The engine was completely wired and was fitted to the firewall overnight. The wheels have been assembled, the rudder cables and pedals are in place, and the undercarriage was prepped and ready to slide in as soon as the engine frame was fitted. It's been a sweltering hot day, but everyone was in great spirits. The handover to the night shift went seamlessly, with a half-hour handover period, meaning that 32 people were working on the plane at once. The plane was beginning to take shape and just seemed to rise up from the work tables.
Day one was quite hectic. We didn't really know how long it was going to take on the day one, so we built like hell, and then at 7:30 at night we changed shifts. The day shift went home, the night shift took over.
Now it was up to the night shift to bolt the engine on, have the undercarriage fitted, and start plumbing the tanks. Most of the next day would be spent on building the wings, completing the empennage, and plumbing and wiring the fuselage. The panel was already half wired, so they should be able to slot it into the dash by mid-afternoon the next day.
Very excited. I can see the work is going nice. I think we'll make it tonight.
A well-earned break for hearty meals and cold drinks have been welcomed, but everyone seemed so revved up to get this plane built that nobody spent much time relaxing. It's mind-blowing how driven everyone was and how fast they were working.
Are you tired now?
No, not yet. I think I'll work for 8 hours.
It was another early start on day 2. And the day shift workers were picked up from the factory at 4:30 in the morning.
When I came back in the morning, on Thursday morning at 7:30 in the morning, I was absolutely blown away. The fuselage was on its undercarriage, the engine was mounted, the panel was in, and we realized we were well ahead of our game.
After a quick walk around and inspection, Mike called the staff together and promptly announced that not only were they on track, but they were in fact so far ahead of schedule that there was no need for a night shift that night.
How's it? Horse and eggs for breakfast.
The day shift jumped right back into action and got back to wiring the engine and the panel and continued with the wings and empennage. Everyone seemed to know exactly what they were doing and what needed to be done next. Truly a well-oiled machine. People passed by and wished the team good luck and expressed their approval and surprise on how far they'd got and how quickly things were progressing.
Blows me away. Jeez. But I don't believe there's an engine in there. That's the problem.
We're actually managing to achieve so much in, so far it's only 2 days. We're nearly, 2/3 of the way through. And I mean, if you look at how complex this is, very, very complex. There's a lot going on here, a lot of wiring. And I see that they've even installed both EFISs and autopilots and everything, and parachuting. So it's a lot to do.
Everything's gone well. We've had 1 or 2 parts that have been damaged during the build, but luckily our factory is only about an hour drive from here, so we've had someone running between the factory and here. They've brought us parts that are broken, and otherwise it's been absolutely fine. I mean, I think the biggest drama we've had so far is a flat tire on one of our cars while trying to leave.
Got a puncture caused by Buto driving like a taxi driver off note.
Despite having worked long hours on the first 2 days, everyone was elated to be back and set to work doing a quick tidy and cleanup before getting stuck in. The final parts of the wings came together effortlessly, with the replacement stringer and work continuing on the center fuselage and wiring. Friday was much busier in terms of traffic flow. There were constantly crowds of people standing at the fences watching in awe and offering support and congratulations. It's amazing that they've managed to build such an incredible team after only 4 years of building slings. All around the site, one could see smiles, hear laughter, and there were no signs of anyone slacking. After lunch, it was clear that things were really coming together so well. Gareth had the fuselage moved out of the tent and the wings were prepped to go on. The cowling was fitted and the spets screwed snugly around the wheels. Just before sunset, Mr. T filled the engine with oil and water and started to spin the prop. The lights and strobes were tested and the panel fired up. After a long day, a quick meeting was held to discuss the plans for the weekend.
So we see those of you who are working tomorrow, we see you guys tomorrow. The rest of you, thanks very much, guys.
Well done, everyone.
Okay. It just shows what you know, what you can do with this life if you really want to.
Day 4 of the Sling 4 440 challenge was full of excitement and fun. Queues to get into the Airshow were ridiculous though, with some of the team taking 2 hours to get in, even with exhibitor passes. Once they were in, they got to work on filling the tanks with fuel, putting in the leather interior, and sticking the registration letters and decals on.
We were 21 on day 1, 21 on day 2, 17 on day 3, and today we 8 people. And the one night shift that we did, we were 11 people. So total about 750 hours, which is about, we knocked about 100 hours off our normal building time.
We're very, very close to finish. We're really doing final inspections at the moment. We need to do a ground run of the engine. So we need to find somewhere, get permission from the Department of Defense to take the aircraft to a quiet corner where we can start the engine and run the engine. And we need to run the engine for at least an hour to make sure that everything is running perfectly, that all the temperatures and pressures are correct, that all the electrics are working correctly. Once we've done that, we then get given what's called a Proving Flights Authority by the South African Civil Aviation Authority. That allows us to then test fly the plane. Now, we've planned to do that tomorrow, which is Sunday, the 21st of September. And we don't have a clear time yet, but it'll be sometime between 11 o'clock and 2:30 in the afternoon. We are battling a little bit to get that absolute final approval from the Department of Defense. There seems to be a little bit of a miscommunication between departments, so we're sort of holding thumbs and talking to everyone that we can and everyone that we know to see if we can get it to happen.
We'd be ready to fly today, but the organizers not letting us fly today, and we'd actually made application only to fly tomorrow. We didn't know how early we'd be. We didn't know if we were going to work day and night or not, you know. But the guys have, we've got an amazing team at the factory, and they really work like crazy.
Press and camera crews were in and out one after each other, all vying for a 5-minute interview with the team. The publicity and support received from local and international press has been fantastic. With 45 minutes to go on day 4, Sling 4 440 was rolled out of its built area. Both wings attached, landing and strobe lights were connected and working, and the avionics were fired up.
So it was an absolute fantastic success. On Saturday afternoon, we managed to get the necessary permissions to drag the plane out through the 25,000 strong crowd.
The plane made its way through the masses of crowds, right up in front of the flight line to conduct the engine ground runs. Brian Eminez, the announcer, explained to the crowds what they were doing. Athol Franz from African Pilot drummed up some excitement by organizing a photo shoot right out in front of the crowds. And generally, there was a sense of excitement and anticipation. And Mike and James climbed in to start up. Fire extinguisher at hand. Final checks done, Mike turned the key and the sling burst to life. With cheers and applaud from the crowds, Mike slowly increased the RPM to full power, and the Rotex 914UL gave the crowd a taste of an aviation engine at full horses.
We want to fly! We want to fly!
So the response has been fantastic. You know, a lot of South Africans know who we are quite well, and a lot of South Africans are really behind us and support us. We've had quite a lot of publicity in the newspapers about this. The local aviation magazines are fantastic to us. They always print articles about us. Both of the sort of major South African aviation magazines are running spreads on this exact build. And then we've got social media running. There's Facebook pages and there's threads on Avcom, which is a local aviation kind of chat forum. We're updating our own websites on a daily basis. Our American company is sending out daily press releases to the kind of American press because this plane we're building is actually for our American company that they can use as their demonstration plane there. In general, people have been blown away by what we've done, and not only in terms of how quickly we've done it, but also in terms of the spirit with which we've done it at. Everyone has got a smile on their face, and all of our employees are proud of what they do. They love building airplanes, and they love being at an event like this and sort of showing the world that as South Africans, we are just as capable as anybody else of making these sort of things, these sort of aircraft.
This is no different to one of our production aircraft.
Okay.
In actual fact, there's more eyes on watching quality and watching that we've got everything right and making sure that everything is set correctly and calibrated correctly. We're much more precise with it because there's more of us around at the build than usual. But it's exactly the standard as a production-built aircraft. The only difference is it's not painted.
At the end of the evening on Saturday, we dragged the plane back and we had a big group photo, and everyone had a beer and celebrated a bit.
All in all, a fantastic day for the airplane factory and the sling, and a great day for the spectators. The next day was the day of the test flight, and everyone was nervous in anticipation.
And then on Sunday, we really returned with very little to do. There were a couple of inspection hatches to put on, a couple more checks to do on the plane, and then the big moment, which we were told was going to be an 11 o'clock in the morning test flight. So we once again wheeled the plane out through the crowds, lined up, ready to start the engine, do the big taxi around. And with like 2 minutes to go, we'd announced it to everyone we're test flying. I'd sent out the message on social media and on our website and all over the place. The Department of Defense said, no, wait, there isn't enough time now. So they made us wait, and we waited until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which actually was a blessing in disguise because the crowd was, twice as many people there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
At arguably the biggest air show on the African continent, James Pittman took to the skies, watched by more than 30,000 people who had flocked to the second day of the show. The aircraft performed flawlessly.
A world record at building an aeroplane from scratch, also South African. So South African really showed that it can.
The test flight was magic. Thousands of people taking photographs and people cheering from the crowds, and people really proud that sort of at an international air show of this caliber, that a real South African product was taken to the skies, and one that we'd built, this airplane that we'd built it set out to build in 4 days, but we actually built in sort of 2 days. It was really, really a proud moment for the whole factory, and I think it's especially nice for us to have our factory staff there, who so often are kind of sidelined and back at the factory doing the work, don't get to be in the limelight and be appreciated as much as possibly some of us managers do. So it was an absolutely amazing experience.
There is no doubt that our intrepid adventurers will be pushing the boundaries even further in 2015, and we can look forward to more record-breaking feats.
What happened is when I came back from the 4-day build at the air show, I congratulated everybody as we all did, and then I mentioned that maybe we should do a world record that nobody can beat. See if we can build one of our planes in 1 day. And everybody shouted, yay! So, we think it's possible.
Mike Blyth and James Pittman are planning on flying our prototype 4-seat aircraft around the world in 4 flights. Their route will be from Durban to Perth, direct. Then they'll spend a bit of time flying around Australia, promoting the aircraft in Australia. Then they'll fly from Perth to Wellington in New Zealand. A bit of time flying around New Zealand, and then a big hop from New Zealand right across to Tierra del Fuego, which is the very southern point of Argentina and Chile. Then from there, the plan is to maybe hop down onto Antarctica and visit the last continent that they haven't been to, and then a long flight from Tierra del Fuego to Cape Town. And it'll be called Around the World in 4 flights. And I think we've managed to drum up a bit of sponsorship for that also. The engines that we use are made by a company called Rotax. aviation engines. And they are quite excited about this adventure also, so they're looking at sponsoring us an engine, and no doubt we'll get a lot of support from other players in the aviation industry.
Starts with a dream. Starts with a dream. The trick is turning your dreams into reality. That's the trick. And sticking with it. Even when things are turning bad, or when you're having hard times, or difficulties with technical issues, difficulties with money, sticking with it and being determined.